name is Stanley Fawn. I'm the son of the founder of the Sacramento Bag Manufacturing Company, Ernest Fawn. So the story of the founding of the company, it basically follows the story of the life of Ernest Fawn, early life. His birthday was December 23, 1904. The date is important because he comes to America at the age of 18. He likely came into the United States in 1923, in the early months of 1923. And the bag company was founded in September of that year. He was born in a little village in Eastern Europe called Strunia. Strunia is in the area of Eastern Europe called the Carpathian Mountains. It was known for its oil fields. At the time he was born, the country was controlled by the Austria-Hungarian Empire. I was born in Sacramento, but I'm glad to be here with you to tell you the story that I learned from my father. Ernest was the youngest of 5 siblings. His father, Hirsch Fawn, worked in the oil fields. He would travel to Germany and work as a laborer there and bring more money back home. When Hirsch's oldest son, Isidore, who was 10 years older than my father, when Isidore was 10, Hirsch brought him to Germany with him to work as well so they can double the money they can send home. Then eventually, Hirsch and Isidore went to Germany to live so they could work full time. And when my father, Ernest, was 10 years old, Hirsch brought his entire family to Germany to live. And they settled in the city of Dortmund. And then, when it was just Hirsch and Isidore in Germany, they would come home twice a year for the Jewish holidays, Passover in the spring and the high holy days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in the fall. And that's how they got back to their family. But as I said, when Ernest was 10, Hirsch decided to move his entire family to Dortmund and live there. So Ernest went to public schools. He spoke German in public and elementary and high school, but he spoke Yiddish at home. So let me explain that my father, Ernest, was not born with that name. He was born by the name of his great-grandfather, Jonah. Jonah in German and other languages, the J is pronounced like a Y. So in public school in Germany, he was called Jonah. But in Yiddish, he was called Joina. And when he landed in New York Harbor and the Ellis Island, the immigration officer in the Ellis Island had to assign new names, English names, to all these foreigners coming in. And so when he learned my father's name was Joina, he came up with Ernest. I don't know how he got Ernest out of Joina, but he did. And anyway, my father was called Ernest ever since. Izzy, Joseph, Sura was a girl, and then Ernest. 5 altogether. Once I asked my father about his brother, Joseph, as a partner, and my father said his brother was the best partner anybody can have. Whenever my father came up with a new idea, he went to discuss it with Joseph, and Joseph always gave him the green light to go ahead. He never said no. My father thought was a wonderful partner. And so the business thrived. And they eventually ventured into other things like real estate and farmland. He was stuck. He had to stay in Germany and make money for his family. It was only when he had that opportunity of a business waiting for him, with money coming in already, that he was able to bring his entire family with him when he came in 1930. And he worked. Hirsch bought a house there with a backyard. He turned the backyard into a junkyard, which was his business. He was a junk dealer. He became a junk dealer, and he and all of his 5 children working there, including Ernest. Ernest had a gift of being able to evaluate the value of the goods, and so when people came in the front door to the office to sell their goods to the junkyard, Ernest was able to evaluate what he could get for it if he sold it, and therefore offer a good price. So he had many customers who wanted to sell their goods there because they were able to offer more money than many other places. And eventually I learned from Ernest's older sister, my Aunt Sura, that Ernest really was so good he took over managing the business, even at a young age. He hated the anti-Semitism of Germany, and he wanted out. So by age 18 he left. When Ernest arrived in New York City, he didn't work there. He came directly by train to San Francisco. He went to his brother's apartment. When he arrived there, he learned that Isidore was going to get married that night. My father went to the wedding, and as it turned out, he was Isidore's only family member to attend his wedding. Uncle Izzy and his bride, Aunt Sarah, put him up for the night on their wedding night even. They put him on their living room sofa. The next morning, after he had a good night's sleep, he realized he couldn't stay there. He rented a pickup truck, loaded it with merchandise that he thought farmers and their wives would want or need. And he drove east into the Sacramento Valley, stopping at farmhouses to sell his merchandise. In this process, farmers had the opportunity now to recognize a chance to sell some of their unwanted goods. Most of these were used burlap bags. They had contained the last year's harvest and now could not be used again in that shape. And in addition, many were torn or had holes in them, so they were of no value to the farmer. And he had to buy some equipment, one of which was what he called blowers, but in effect they were really big, giant vacuum tubes suspended from the ceiling. The bottom opening was oblong shaped, and the open end of the burlap bag can fit over the opening of these big, giant vacuum tubes. And the vacuum suction would take the inside of the bag and turn it inside out and get rid of all the leftover crops and debris like twigs and leaves, and they had a clean bag again. Ernest also had to buy some sewing machines, and knowing my father, I bet he bought used sewing machines, and then he hired some of the local women who knew how to sew and use these sewing machines and set them up to repair the bags. And now he had these usable bags and sold them to the farmers at a price cheaper than a brand new burlap bag would cost, so he had a business going. That was the beginning of Sacramento Bag. But now that he was making some money, he wanted to get married, and he thought he would be better off marrying somebody from the old country. So he decided he was going to go back to Germany and find a bride and bring her back to California. And but in order to do that, somebody had to mind his business, otherwise he wouldn't have and he didn't know who to trust to cover his business. So, but he had one older brother left in Dortmund, his brother Joseph, and Joseph was unable to leave Germany and make his fortune in the United States because he was married and had 2 small boys, Leo and Alex. And my father decided that he was going to offer his brother Joseph 50% interest in his company, and they would be 50-50 partners. When Joseph received this letter of invitation to this join with Ernest, he saw his golden opportunity to get out of Germany. So he sent back a letter saying he accepts, and then he gathered his wife and Alex and Leo and set sail for New York. They came to New York and Millie took a train to Sacramento to join Ernest and join the business. Around 1930 that Joseph and his family came out west. So when Joseph joined Ernest, they decided they can even make more money if they went into the new burlap bag business as well and manufacture bags. So they needed a bigger plant for that. And they bought a piece of property that can house it on Q Street between 5th and 6th Streets, and they moved the business there. My job then was just running printing press. They had an old-fashioned printing press that can do one bag at a time. And anyway, the sewers, like for the new bags, got paid by the piece. And so one sewer in particular was really great, very fast. She was amazing to watch. When I watched her name, I even still remember her name. Loretta was her first name. And Loretta had the ability to take rectangular cut piece of burlap and in one quick motion sewed all the stuff, 3 sides up without wasting a moment. And eventually Alex and Leo took over the business completely after my father died in 1975. It was now in their hands. Alex and Leo ran the business entirely on their own. Their father, Joseph, had retired earlier, but the bagging business was essentially the family business. But ultimately, Ernest and Joseph and Alex and Leo decided that they would sell the business. I was good. They put it on the market. The new owners came and bought it. None of Leo and Alex's kids wanted to go into the business, and I wasn't going to go into business. I always wanted to be a doctor. Mm-hmm. And I was a good student, and I decided, and my parents supported that idea. So Alex and Leo sold the business in 2005 to the new owners. But that was the founding, and that was how poor immigrants made a go of it in the land of opportunity, the United States. And I think about all these immigrants who want to come into this country for the same reason and do well. You know, hard work and seizing opportunities and having a little entrepreneurship can go far in the United States, better than any place else. And Sacramento was a warm, welcoming city for my family. They escaped anti-Semitism and had opportunities to succeed in business with hard work and enterprise. Yeah. I feel very fortunate to have been born there and had good parents who loved me and nurtured me all these years of my youth. So they sold it to the new owners, who amazingly did extremely well with it, keeping it going on these 100 years after it was founded. So I appreciate and applaud the new owners for using modern techniques and efficiency methods to make the business a growing business, ongoing business. So, and now here we have this celebration of 100 years of the business continuing in Sacramento. And I thank the city of Sacramento for this honor of honoring the bag company for all those years, being productive, helping the farmers, helping the local citizens of Sacramento to give them jobs.